like, share, and please subscribe.
This is the legend of the black-eyed children. They appear at night, often asking for help, to use your phone or to come inside. But there's something deeply unsettling about their presence. Those who encounter them often describe a feeling of unease, an instinctual warning that something is terribly wrong. Many have reported physical symptoms: nausea, panic, a chill that penetrates the soul. Some say they are manifestations of an alien race, while others believe they are spirits of the damned. No matter the origin, one thing remains clear. Once you lock eyes with them, you may never feel safe again. Are they just a myth? Or do they lurk in the shadows, waiting for the next unsuspecting victim? Be cautious. You never know who might come knocking.
If you see black-eyed children, don't let them in.
When I encountered black-eyed children, I did not let them in. Didn't make any noise, didn't open the door, nothing. But they still knew that I was there. It starts in this creepy ass North Texas house. I've spoken briefly about this house before. I even uploaded a video to YouTube about some of the things that I experienced here, but I've never shown it, and I do feel like it helps to have this visual while I tell the story. Quick side note, I have no fucking idea what this is. I'm gonna take y'all back to 2011 right quick. I was always the first one who made it home from school. My mom told me, get your ass in the house, shut the door, lock the door, don't open the door for nobody, period. So I'm in the back of the house and I'm watching TV, and I had to have been there for a couple hours, right? So this happened early evening at the latest. So I'm at the back of the house watching TV, listening to music, whatever, and I hear a faint knock. So I pause the TV and I get up to go and see who's at the door. I was not supposed to open it, but I was just curious as to who it was. So I'm walking through the dining area and I stand at the doorway to the living room, which is a little bit behind this window right here. And I'm standing there a little bit confused because I'm like, who is knocking at the door? Now, while I'm standing there, I hear another knock. So I decide I'm gonna tiptoe to the door and peep through the peephole and see who it is. So I tiptoe to the door, but before I can say anything or look through the peephole or anything, I hear, "Can I come in?" Real quick before I get into that, the first thing that I noticed when I walked up to this door was the energy. If you're familiar with the paranormal, you've heard the term impending sense of doom or impending sense of dread, right? That is the perfect way to explain what the hell I felt standing on the other side of this door. Just this dark, heavy, ominous cloud of dark energy. So I get up on my tippy toes and I look through the peephole. And when I look through the peephole, I see two children. One blonde-haired girl standing about here, and one boy with short black hair standing about here. The girl was either looking straight ahead or looking down, but all I remember is that I could not see her eyes. However, the boy with the bowl cut, he was looking directly into the peephole. I don't even know how he knew I was at the door, let alone looking through the peephole, but we were basically making eye contact. This is obviously when I noticed the eyes, right? But while we're making eye contact, this boy says to me again, "Can I come in?" And I'm still thinking to myself, like, there's no way they can possibly know that I'm inside. So I just lower myself back down to the floor and I tiptoe over to this window. Now I'm looking through this window at an angle so I can see the boy and the girl standing in front of the door. And while I'm at this window, that is when I see them turn around and walk down the stairs. There was nothing old and unfamiliar about their clothing. Nothing stood out to me about them at all aside from their eyes. The only thing that's a little bit odd to me about this is that it happened while it basically looked like this outside. So it appears that black-eyed children can roam in the daylight as well.
Let's talk about the black-eyed children. This is an urban legend that was really popular back in the 90s. But there were even more reports before the 90s as well. One day you might get a knock on your front door or on your car window, and when you look down, you're gonna see the black-eyed children looking at you. They're gonna try to make you let them in. Don't let them in. If you're one of those unlucky people that got persuaded by the black-eyed children to let them in, your death is imminent. They also appear as hitchhikers on highways. Many people report these things being demons, cryptids, some kind of human-alien hybrid. They even depict them as being ghosts too. But obviously, nobody knows for sure. The only thing that's known is once you let them in or near you, that they are dangerous. There are also sources reporting that once you let these things into your car or your house, that they shapeshift into these grotesque-looking creatures. You might be wondering what happens if you don't let them in. They get extremely angry when you don't let them in. They won't kill you if you don't let them in, but they will stalk you and harass you and try to make you go insane. If you see the black-eyed children at your door, just ignore them. Apparently, the second you start interacting with these beings, it feels like they have power over you and you're very prone to manipulation. Let me know what you guys think about the black-eyed children in the comment section below and what you want me to talk about next.
Today I'm going to be asking my haunted doll about black-eyed children. Basically, there are these entities that present themselves as children, but they have pure black eyes, and a lot of people have come across them. I've come across a few, and they are very terrifying. Yes, Lola can vouch. So I'm going to see what she has to say about them. The link to the Spirit Box app I use is in my bio. Lola, are black-eyed children demonic entities? Yes, they are. Have you come across these black-eyed children? Yes, she has. I think with me, actually. Have you ever tried to talk to them? No, I feel like she's too scared to. Yeah, she is. That's confirmation. There's actually a young boy in here right now. I don't think he's a black-eyed child. I'm pretty sure I've seen him here before, but I'm gonna ask Lola and make sure he's not one of the children. The boy standing near the kitchen, a black-eyed child. No, okay. Whew, I got so nervous. He walked in like right when we were talking about them too. Do you think that these entities have been here for a long time on this planet? Yes. I feel her getting nervous. Like I'm getting out of breath because she's getting like a little nervous about it. It's like she's scared to talk about it. Yes. Oh my gosh. Alright, Lola, can you make it stop? I feel like she's trying to warn me. Like there might be, I don't know, maybe I'm like about to accidentally summon one of these children. But before we go, Lola, are our followers safe from these children? Okay, you guys are safe, that's good. Just if you ever see one, don't talk to it and tell it to leave.
The legend of the black-eyed children originated in the 1990s in the United States, capturing the imagination of those who hear it. These eerie children, often described as wearing old-fashioned clothing, appear at night, knocking on doors or approaching cars. Their most unsettling feature is their completely black eyes, devoid of any sclera or iris. Witnesses report a compelling urge to let them in, despite feeling an overwhelming sense of dread. Some believe they are vampires or extraterrestrial beings. Variations of the legend spread across the globe, with reports of similar encounters in various cultures, often linked to themes of lost innocence and fear of the unknown, leaving an indelible mark on urban folklore.
I have a black-eyed kid story time. This story took place on March 17th of 2008. For the sake of the story, we're going to call him James. So James was about 12 years old, hanging out in his mom's truck in the parking lot of a shopping mall. His mom was inside one of the stores getting a haircut, and he was just waiting in the car for her to finish. As he's sitting in the car just scrolling through his phone, he looks over and sees a boy about his age across the street. He assumes that it's one of his friends from school, so he starts to bang on the window trying to get this boy's attention. But when the boy turns around, James realizes that he does not know him at all. Confused, James watches as this strange boy starts to walk from across the street towards his truck and then proceeds to try to open the handle. Fear started to set in when James got a closer look at this boy and saw that his eyes were completely blacked out. I mean, he was literally staring at the face of evil. Then to his horror, he heard when the boy said, "You must let me in." Panicking at this point, James decides to kind of bend down in the car and kind of hide underneath the glove compartment. After a couple minutes, this strange black-eyed kid walked away. Soon after, James' mom ended up coming out of the hair salon. When she got in the car, she informed James that a strange boy with completely blacked out eyes had come into the salon asking for the keys of her car. Thankfully, James' mother did not give in.
One woman had a scare with a black-eyed kid in a supermarket parking lot that also concerned her own child. She was just making a quick stop into the market for some milk and cereal and left her son out in her SUV. When she returned with her groceries, there was another boy sitting in the car with her son. This other boy had completely black eyes and stared at her coldly. The woman yanked her son out of the car and ran off into the store, told the store manager about it, and then called her husband. She was completely unnerved from the glare that she had received from this black-eyed child, but when they returned to the SUV, he was gone. She asked her son about this strange boy, and her son told her the boy had wanted a ride to their house, and her son thought this was a boy that could come over and play. The mother asked, "So he just got in the car?" "No, Mommy," her son said. "I asked him to get in. He said he wasn't allowed unless I asked him."
The photo on the left is of a girl called Hannah Butler. Hannah says that since she took the photo on the right, she has been terrorized by images of a girl dressed in white with jet black hair and black eyes. It all started when she took the photo on the right while on a ghost walk in Hessel Foreshore Woods, East Riding, Yorkshire. Hannah said, "Our guide showed us a tree and told us that some people had seen the ghost of a little orphan girl who is looking out to sea waiting for her dad to come home. I just snapped away at the tree. I must have taken about 10 photos. There was no little girl there when I took those photos. But when I was looking through the photos, there she was. I started freaking out and I had to ask to be taken home. I stayed over at my friend's house for a few days after that because I was just so scared." Hannah's photo, taken on the midnight ghost walk, shows a girl of about 5 years old with black eyes, very much like the black-eyed child of Cannock Chase. Hannah said since that night she has been plagued with dreams of the girl, and she also says that one night when she woke up from one of those dreams, she was absolutely 100% certain the girl was standing there watching her from the dark corner of her bedroom. What do you think about this case and this photo? Let me know in the comments.
I want to hear a creepy story? Warning, if you get scared easily, keep on scrolling. So have y'all ever heard of the black-eyed children? There is controversy over who they are, what they are, but they will show up right outside your door and they look like young children, usually between the ages of 6 and 16. They love to hang their heads down and they'll talk and they try not to make any eye contact because when they do, everything is completely black. That's why they call them the black-eyed children. They love to find people who are at home or in their cars and they will knock on their door and they always want to come in. And when they are let in, bad things happen, like for the rest of these people's lives. I've read some stories where people were sick and within a few years have passed away, and they truly believe it's because they had been in the presence and let these children in their homes. These kids come off very, very persistent. They'll be like, "Let me in, I need to use your phone. Let me in, I need something to eat. Let me in." Like, they're very, very persistent on what they need, and they keep saying the same thing over and over. Some people think that they are a demon. Other people think that they are aliens. So there's controversy on what they are. Either way, I do not want to be met with one in the middle of the night. So I got a story for you. So this 10-year-old boy is at home and he's doing his homework, and it's not dark yet, but his parents aren't home yet. So it's in the evening, he's doing his homework. All of a sudden he hears a really, really loud bang on his door. He thought it was his neighbor because his elderly neighbor always knocks really, really loud. So he gets up and he opens the door and a kid is standing there, and he's got like really like dirty looking like clothes on, but he's looking down. And he says, "I need to come in, I'm hungry." And so this kid kind of steps back a little bit and he's like, "Do I know you? Like, is your brother or sister running around? Do you have friends in the neighborhood? Like, how do I know you?" The kid doesn't say anything. He only repeats, "I'm hungry, let me in. Let me in, I'm hungry." So the kid kind of waits around a little bit, is kind of looking for anybody to kind of like come and grab this kid or take him away because this is a strange event. And so he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go grab you something to eat. I'll be right back." Goes into the kitchen, grabs some crackers. All of a sudden, all of his alarm bells are going off. And all of a sudden, he can hear what this person is thinking. And in this person is thinking, "What did I do wrong? Why didn't this work? What did I do wrong?" He walked back to that door and the child was gone. Fortunately for that kid, he never let him inside the house, so nothing bad actually happened except the fact that he could hear that other kid's thoughts. Super strange. So whatever you do, if somebody comes knocking at your door at 2 or 3 in the morning, or your car door when it's dark, do not let them in.
Imagine opening your door only to see children standing there with lifeless eyes. So I'm truly terrified of black-eyed children. Black-eyed children are paranormal creatures that are said to resemble children 6 through 16. They have pale skin and black eyes. And when a reported encounter happens, you have to actually invite them in order to be in any danger. So how did this legend even get started? Well, tabloids have been covering the tales of these sightings since the 1980s. The biggest source who is indicated to have started this on the mainstream happened in 1996, in which a Texan reporter by the name of Brian Bethel had 2 alleged encounters with black-eyed children. So Brian was sitting outside of a theater in his car in Abilene, Texas, when he got a knock on his glass window. There was 2 boys there who seemed to be around the ages of 9 and 12, and they were both wearing hooded sweatshirts. He opened the window a crack, and they asked if they could have a ride to their mothers. He described one of the boys as being olive-toned with curly hair, and the other one red-headed with freckles and very pale. He stated that as they were talking, he felt a sense of dread come over him, and he told them that he wouldn't make it back in time for his movie. However, the second he said this, they pushed even harder. They started saying things like, "We're just kids, we don't have a weapon or anything," and that's when he noticed that their eyes were completely black. He told the boys no, and that's whenever they started to knock on his door harder, saying, "We can't come in unless you tell us to." He then drove away and noticed from the rearview mirror that the boys were completely gone. So this was the foundation to the black-eyed children story. But this would not even be close to the last. Go to part 2.
Black-eyed children have been sighted since the 1980s. They are reported to be entities that resemble young children. They are often encountered as hitchhikers on lonely, remote roads where no children should be walking alone. Most horrifyingly, they are sometimes encountered by people at their own home. These children will walk to homes and beg to be let in. It is best to ignore them and never let them in your home, or they will return more frequently.
Amun was sitting in his car when 2 boys wearing hoods approached and asked for a ride. He rolled down the window slightly, but immediately felt a deep sense of dread, as though something bad would happen if he let them in. As the Mun looked closer, he noticed something terrifying. The boys' eyes were completely black, with no whites visible at all. This discovery intensified his fear. Panicked, the Mun quickly drove away, leaving the boys behind. He later shared his experience online, and soon others began reporting similar encounters with strange children who had pitch-black eyes. These stories contributed to a growing urban legend, despite the lack of solid evidence.
This is the terrifying story of the first documented encounter with black-eyed children. A man named Brian was in a parking lot of a movie theater late one night, sitting in his car getting ready to leave, when 2 children knocked on his window. Startled, he turned towards the children, who were wearing pullover hoodies. They said that they were there to watch a movie, but they'd left their money at their mom's house and asked if Brian could give them a ride down the road to their mother's house. All the while, Brian had a strange feeling of gut-wrenching dread and fear. Ignoring his gut feeling, he was about to let the children into his car when he looked up at them and realized that their eyes were as black as a starless midnight sky. He told the children, "I'm sorry, but I can't." And then he scared out of there. And as he was exiting the parking lot, he looked in his rearview mirror where the children had just been standing, not even seconds before, and there was nobody, no children anywhere in sight. Nowhere. Black-eyed children had vanished, almost like they were never even there to begin with.
A very common and feared entity here in Appalachia, and probably many other places in Northern America, is known as the black-eyed children. Many people that have encounters with the black-eyed children claim that they appear to be usually between the ages of 6 and 16. Many people will claim that they've had an encounter with the black-eyed children when they approach their car when they are stopped at a red light or alone in a parking lot, in the woods, anywhere in the dark alone. They claim that they're usually in sets of 2 and they'll try anything to get into your house or your car. What's usually a dead giveaway for the black-eyed children is that their hair and their outfits are usually from an older time era. The black-eyed children appear to look normal at first, but when you talk to them, people say that their stories seem to be like rehearsed. So far, I've heard nobody's stories where they've actually let the black-eyed children in. If you've seen them, I'd love to hear your story and let me know if you also live in Appalachia.
Have you ever heard of black-eyed children?
You know, we have some sightings.
But here's the thing: we have some here in the valley.
So I go down, I see little footprints, but there's just no one in the fucking room. So I'll call my supervisor. I'm like, "Hey, bro, can you review my body cam?" And this is why I saw someone in that room when there's not supposed to be anyone in that room.
Yeah.
So he goes in there and says, "Yeah, you just saw a ghost." I'm like, "What?"
They're crazy.
They need an ass beat. Like I broke one's nose because he bit me in the groin.
What?
Yeah.
At the beginning of this segment, I'm like, the girl's attracted to the one that has no interest.
Yeah, bro.
But also the males, like, you know,
like,
yeah.
Like gym crush, right?
Oh, she doesn't work there anymore. You know what's funny, dude? Is that I got to know her a little bit.
Stop lying, bro.
A child you've never met approaches you and asks for help. What would you do? In 1996, reporter Brian Bethel encountered two children whose presence consumed his soul with fear. Some believe it's paranormal, others believe it's a prank, but one glance is all it takes from the black-eyed kids.
Since its public debut in the early 1990s, the internet has become a breeding ground for conspiracy and urban legend. There are now literally thousands of podcasts, chat rooms, and message boards dedicated to cryptozoological, ufological, and paranormal phenomena. Whereas some of the individuals behind these broadcasts and websites are committed to good investigative journalism and fact-finding, most of them simply proliferate wild speculations, baseless rumors, unverifiable testimonies, and deliberate hoaxes. However, within the morass of misinformation, disinformation, and just plain bad information, there is a repository of truth. Among the most popular of urban legends propagated on the internet is the alleged phenomenon of black-eyed kids, sometimes referred to as black-eyed children, or BECs for short. According to the legend, these bizarre and sinister children, usually between the ages of 6 and 16, sometimes come knocking on the doors of people's homes or on the windows of their cars, entreating entry. To the horror of the person encountering them, the eyes of these kids are completely black, with no discernible sclera, iris, or pupil. The origin of this internet sensation is difficult to pinpoint, but most researchers trace it back to the late 1990s, when blogger Brian Bethel wrote about an alarming encounter he had with black-eyed kids in 1996. There was a knock on my driver's side window. Two young boys, somewhere between 9 and 12 years old and dressed in hooded pullovers, stood outside. I cracked the window a bit, anticipating a spiel for money, but I was immediately gripped by an incomprehensible, soul-racking fear. I had no idea why. A conversation ensued between one boy, a somewhat suave, oil-skinned, curly-headed young man, and myself. The other, a red-headed, pale-skinned, freckled young man, stayed in the background. The spokesman, as I've come to think of him, told me that he and his companion needed a ride. Plausible enough, but all throughout this exchange, the irrational fear continued and grew. I had no reason to be frightened of these two boys, but I was, terribly. All the while, the spokesman uttered assurances. It wouldn't take long. They were just two little kids. They didn't have a gun or anything. The last part was a bit unnerving. In the short time I had broken the gaze of the spokesman, something had changed, and my mind exploded in a vortex of all-consuming terror. Both boys stared at me with coal-black eyes, soulless orbs like two great swaths of starless night. I full-on freaked out inside while trying to appear completely sane and calm. I made whatever excuses came to mind, all of them designed to get me the hell out of there. I wrapped my hand around the gear shift, threw the car into reverse, and began to roll up the window, apologizing all the while. My fear must have been evident. The boy in the back wore a look of confusion. The spokesman banged sharply on the window as I rolled it up. His words, full of anger, echo in my mind even today. "We can't come in unless you tell us it's okay. Let us in." I drove out of the parking lot in blind fear. I stole a quick look in my rearview mirror before peeling out into the night. The boys were gone. Even if they had run, I don't believe there was any place they could have hidden from view that quickly. This story of Brian Bethel's soon circulated through paranormal forums and message boards. It wasn't long before thousands of new accounts detailing similar encounters with so-called black-eyed kids began to pour in from all over the globe. Whether contrived or real, the phenomenon was worldwide and burgeoning. In fact, there have been more reports of encounters with black-eyed kids in recent years than ever before, though admittedly, there has also been more media coverage of the phenomenon than ever before, including a Kickstarter-funded horror film produced in 2012 entitled Black-Eyed Kids. It must also be noted that the phenomenon is easily hoaxed. The trademark black eyes of the black-eyed kids can be reproduced with full eye contact lenses, which are readily available on the web. There are even tutorials on YouTube that demonstrate how to properly insert them. Undoubtedly, at this point in time, and due to integration into popular culture, many black-eyed kids hoaxes are being perpetrated by mischievous teenagers. However, notwithstanding the hoaxes, the corroborating similarities in black-eyed kids encounters from all over the world, sometimes involving multiple eyewitnesses, and the paranormal activity often associated with them, such as their disappearing into thin air, cannot be whimsically dismissed. Multitudes of people have been severely traumatized from exposure to this phenomenon. An encounter with black-eyed kids often unfolds in the following manner. You hear a knocking at your door. An inexplicable sense of foreboding overtakes you. You answer the door and are surprised to find two children standing there with their heads bowed. Oddly, they are dressed in drab, ill-fitting clothing. They ask for permission to enter your home in order to use the bathroom or telephone, and insist that it won't take long. Their voices are monotone and robotic, and they seem to be reciting a practiced dialogue. During the course of the dialogue, one of them lifts their head, and to your utter horror, you notice that their eyes are completely black, and that their skin has a chalky or pasty appearance, as if it were artificial. Terror consumes you. In panic, you contrive an excuse and slam the door shut. The children disappear from your doorstep, but you are left feeling traumatized and violated. Aside from the details presented in this general scenario, people who encounter black-eyed kids often report a foul odor that lingers in the atmosphere even after the children are gone. Sometimes people feel that they are being controlled or manipulated when they look into the black void of the children's eyes. Oftentimes, after an encounter, especially if the children were granted entry into a person's home or vehicle, strange physical ailments afflict the person's body, and poltergeist activity begins occurring in the person's home. The fact that the legend of black-eyed kids seems to have been born on the internet dissuades many skeptics from giving it any credence. However, unbeknownst to casual observers, strange children with black eyes were being reported long before the internet was ever invented. Since the 1940s, in post-World War II America, peculiar accounts of alien abductions have been surfacing with increasing frequency. Some of the abduction stories included encounters with human-alien hybrid children who were described in many cases as having pasty or chalky artificial-like skin and large black eyes. Additionally, these children were often described as having very monotone voices and exuding a foul odor. The black-eyed kids phenomenon may have been popularized and proliferated on the internet, but it was certainly not conceived in cyberspace. The truth is that people have been encountering black-eyed children for decades, long before the media had any interest in their stories. We cannot, therefore, logically attribute black-eyed kids to pop culture sensationalism. Either they really exist, or millions of unassociated people all around the world, many with no prior knowledge of the phenomenon, have somehow been suffering from the same mass psychosis. The topic of this analysis was prompted by the testimony of a good friend of mine working with the Oglala Lakota people living on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota. Recently, my friend informed me of an urgent call he received from one of the families living on the reservation. They were traumatized because strange children with completely pitch black eyes and chalky skin, speaking in chilling, monotone voices, were showing up on their property and asking to be let in to their house. Neither my friend nor the family on the reservation had ever heard of black-eyed kids. It is apparent to me that this phenomenon is not only tangible and terrifyingly real, but also escalating. It is my opinion that these black-eyed kids are related to the hybrid children that are often encountered during alien abductions. The fact that the ostensible directive of these entities is to be willingly invited into one's home is indicative of some kind of demonic subterfuge, possibly relating to alien abductions. Whatever the case, it is my contention that this kind of paranormal intrusion is only going to increase as the days grow darker. Reporting for SteveQuayle.com, I'm Timothy Alberino, and that's my analysis.